couple of things I'd like to point out to you. First thing primarily is in the month-end checks, which is the very top amount, $1.9 million. Within there was a payment for a truck that we just received, just shy of $81,000. That's the truck you approved over a year ago. It just came in. Mark, when did it come in? About a week and a half ago, right? Yeah. So your board approved that on August the 23rd, and it came in post that a year later. There was a payment for Site Logic of 800, just shy of 846,000. That right now puts us total paid to Site Logic of about $2.85 million, leaving just shy of $800,000 balance remaining for the projects. One other one on that grouping was the Sugar Valley Rural Charter School payment for tuition payments for July, August, and September. That was just over $275,000. Third amount down there is the $1.29 million. That's the general fund electronic payments. Nothing unusual there, although I wanted to note to you that you'll see 3 remittances from several payrolls. There was 3 pays in July. The timing of the remittances for the 3rd pay in July, most of those got pushed into August because it was very end of July. The capital reserve check, I know you haven't approved a whole lot in capital reserve, so I wanted to point out that was your lease payment, your annual lease payment for the camera system. That's just shy of $65,000. That's payment number 3 of 5. That's the only thing of real note regarding the bills.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Those not in favor, nay. Motion passes. Next is presentations, communications. Dr. Ulmer.
There's 2 things I want to mention tonight under communications. One is that last week I went to Salatiesburg and recognized Heather Garrett, our night shift custodian, as Employee of the Month. Heather does a wonderful job at Sal. And also, Mr. Keene reported to me today that Miss Kendall Eichenlaub will be your student board rep. Unfortunately, she was not available. Mr. Keene didn't get to talk to her today because she was not here, but she should be with us in October.
Okay. Under the President's report, I just would like to make the public aware that on tonight's agenda, under the letter I of miscellaneous, we are going to table letter H, which is the greenhouse donation from Shelley Helm. We think this is an excellent idea, and we're very thankful for this opportunity. But before we're able to accept it, there just needs to be some more details to be ironed out first. So we just want to thank Mrs. Helm. And then moving on to the intermediate report, Jesse?
Not at this time.
Okay. Superintendent's report.
I want to start by recognizing Mr. Keene. There are 2 things that Mr. Keene is going to talk about tonight. One of them is Act 158 and graduation requirements. You may remember, some of you were here when this became a law and Mr. Keene presented at the time, but not only I know that some of you weren't here then, but there were some changes made to this pathways to graduation in the last school code bill. So I asked him to come tonight and review those changes. I also gave him this opportunity to update the board on the CPAC grant for our CTE programs that he discussed with you prior to COVID. But now that it's well underway, I wanted you to hear an update. Mr. King.
Well, thank you. Good evening, board. Thank you for having me. Nice to see you again. Good evening, community. So we have a new law, Act 158, in the state of Pennsylvania. And basically it further defines the pathways to graduation. I know pathways is a buzzword and it has been in our district for quite some time. So we were kind of ahead of the curve on a lot of this stuff. I think this is a good step in the right direction by the state, and I'm looking forward to putting this into place. I just want to go through these different pathways with you, so you understand how our students can meet the new graduation requirements. And they go into effect for our seniors this year, class of 2023. So the first traditional way is simply passing the Keystone exams. Now, by federal law, all students are required to take the Keystone exams. They're required to take them. We want them all to pass, be proficient, or advanced on the Keystone exams. But that doesn't always pan out. So the first traditional way is passing, being proficient or advanced on the Keystone exams. However, if that doesn't happen, there are a few extra pathways that students can meet this requirement. The next pathway is the composite, and this is new, the composite pathway. So at least one of the Keystone exams, English Lit, Algebra, or Biology, is 1,500 or greater. 1,500 is proficient. No Keystone exam below basic, and a composite score of 3 Keystone exams equaling 4,452 points or more, then they'll be proficient. If they only make 2 of those, the score has to be at 2939 or greater. And then we look at one of the other pathways, like the evidence-based pathway, in order to meet that. So that's the second pathway to be proficient to meet the state requirements. The next way is kind of ties in Act 6, which happened a few years ago. And this is for all career and technical education students. So if a student is a career and technical education concentrator, that means a student that has met or plans to meet 50% of the requirements of the program. That's what a CTE concentrator is. If they are not proficient on the Keystone exams and they're a CTE concentrator, they pass the Keystone classes, English, this year will be English 10, Biology, Algebra 1. They will only need 1 artifact from the CTE world, the CTE side, in order to meet the requirements for the state graduation. While CTE students have a plethora of opportunities to meet this. Maybe the easiest way to meet this. But this is a great opportunity for kids. If students are not career and technical education students, I'm going to plug and say they really need to learn that. We have an alternative assessment. And these students, again, have to pass we call them the trade courses, English 10, Algebra 1, and Biology. They have to pass those courses. If they did not pass the Keystone exams, they need to show 1 artifact from this alternative assessment. And I'll show you those artifacts here in just a minute. If they don't qualify for that, then they're looking at the evidence-based pathway, which means they still have to pass the classes, but now they need 3 articles in the evidence-based pathway. Another way students can meet the requirements is to have it written in their IEP, their individualized educational plan. And for that very, very, very small group of students that meet any of the pathways, Dr. Ulmer is able to waive up to 5% of the students, which is about 7 or 8 of our students, if none of these pathways. I don't foresee very many of those, but that could be possible this year, simply because this group of students is the students, the 9th grade students during COVID. And this group did not take those Keystone exams because they were exempt at that point. So that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. However, when we have almost, I think it's 40-some% of our students are CTE students, they're fine. They're going to meet the graduation. So those 3 pathways, the CTE concentrator, alternative assessment, this is what they're looking for. Can we see that on the screen?
Thank you.
Now we can.
Oh, look, right here. So, the 1 artifact that they will need could be one of many different things. Industry-based competency certification, we give the OSHA 10, all the students take the NOCTI exam. Most of our students get some industry-based certification beyond the NOCTI or even OSHA 10. The likelihood of industry-based competency assessment success, meaning they're going to pass the NOCTI. Readiness for continued engagement in the as a CTE concentrator simply means they've met the 50% their junior year and they're moving on to the next level. Again, our CTE students are in great shape for this. Students who are not CTE, in the Career Technical Education Program, will have to follow the alternative assessment if they don't pass all 3 keystones. They need 1 artifact. So this could be the ACT test, the ASVAB, and notice there are, let's look a little bit more, notice there are minimum scores. So they have to, it's not just taking this test, they have to take the test seriously and meet the minimum requirements. So the ACT test, they have to score 21. ASVAB, they have to score 31. The PSAT is a 970 and the SAT is a 1010. Or they need to be a gold level or better on the ACT work keys, a 3 or better on the AP exams. A student performing at a 3 or better on an AP exam is certainly outscoring any score on the Keystone exam. The AP exam is much more difficult. A 4 or better on the IB exams, we don't do the IB program. Successful completion of concurrent enrollment courses related to the Keystone content, dual enrollment classes, which we have plenty of those. So if they are successful in a dual enrollment course, English 111, for instance, that would work. Successful completion of a pre-apprenticeship program. Again, I'm going to come back to CTE. Our manufacturing program has a pre-apprenticeship program currently, is very successful. We're looking at expanding that as much as possible through the CPAC that Dr. Elmer just talked about, the Central Pennsylvania Apprenticeship Consortium. So I'll talk about that in a minute. And acceptance into any 4-year program. So any of those would qualify as that 1 artifact of evidence. If that doesn't work, so a student doesn't score that high, not in an AP exam, not in dual enrollment, not in a CTE pre-apprenticeship program, not going to college, then they will fall in the evidence-based category, which they're going to need 3 artifacts. 1 of which needs to come from section 1 and 2 from section 2. So section 1 is 630 or better on any subject test for the SAT, which we don't provide. Silver level or better in the ACT work keys. 3 or better on AP, 3 or better on IB exams. Again, we don't provide the IB. We don't have the interbaccalaureate program, international program. Successful completion of any concurrent enrollment. That would be the dual enrollment. Industry recognized credentials. Again, that falls within the CTE world. Acceptance into an accredited 4-year college. So they're the evidence for section 1. You need 1 of those. And 2 of section 2. Proficient or advanced on any Keystone exam. So let's say they're proficient on the English literature Keystone exam, but not biology and algebra. Well, that would qualify, that ELA would qualify for section 2. Completion of a service learning project. They're involved in FBLA. They do great learning projects. Letter guaranteeing full-time employment or military enlistment would also work. We do have a lot of that. Completion of an internship, externship, co-op ed. Those students would also be in career and technical education. So that pathway would be the one that we would follow, as well as compliance with the NCAA Division II academic requirements. Again, chances are, if they take the exam seriously, they'll pass them, the 3 Keystone exams. It won't be an issue. Okay, so that is the new law. Act 158 is what it looks like now. We do have a handy-dandy little flow chart. It looks kind of like a chutes and ladder game. Those we have some boxes of questions and to help guide us through some of the tougher questions. Most of our students will qualify other than in the Keystone proficiency pathway. or the CTE concentrator pathway. That's where most of our students will fall. We will have a few, we'll have to look at alternative assessment, evidence-based, probably IEPs as well as a couple waivers. We may, this year, may look at the whole gamut of this. Subsequent years, I don't think so. Any questions with Act 158? Graduation requirement.
Well, I have a
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
Did they know, like, when did they decide that they were putting this in place? Like, that was pre-COVID, I'm assuming?
The state,
Yeah.
I have no idea. They were working on, trying to think when Act 6 was.
It's been coming for a while, but they kept changing the date. So even prior to COVID, they moved the year that the impact started. They moved it back a few times.
Okay.
And then when they finalized the school code bill, so the couple of COVID years, they used that as an excuse and moved it back a couple more years. Then last spring, when they passed the school code bill, that was when they said, okay, we're really going to do it this time. We're really going to let it be 2023, but we're going to put in some additional options.
So the additional options are to cover the kids with the loss of education
I believe so.
for their 9th grade year. Gotcha.
And again, looking at this, from my perspective, I think this is very positive. I think it's a very positive step in the right direction. Could it be better? Yes.
Three,
But
maybe.
I like where it's headed, and I like the opportunities that it has. And again, with the pathway system we use at Jersey Shore, if students are following that pathway system, those students will be well covered under this. Whether they are proficient with the Keystone exams, if not, they'll be in a CTE program. And again, if 40% of our seniors are in CTE programs right now, so
Thank you.
we could probably add one. So this is good. Yes,
Is this information going to be given to parents so they understand, like, everything that about the students to take home to their parents?
We can
and go
post it.
over Not everybody can find stuff on the website, and that's not the easiest on the website. I mean, is there, like, is it, like, could guide, like, is it fall under, like, guidance counselors giving you information that way? I don't know. I mean, it just seems like it's a lot of avenues, and if I had a kid in the school district right now, I would be like thinking all the different options that we would be available and trying to figure, but if it's new and most parents haven't already been through it with their, you know what I mean? Like, so this is different than what I went through with my
Oh,
kid,
yeah.
and it's way different than when I went to school. I didn't know if there was any way we're gonna help the parents with knowing, because
Well, the counselors will have this, actually, I met with counselors this morning to go over all of this, and they'll have it when they meet with their students and plan for this. Step one, for all students and parents who are listening, step one is to take the Keystone exams.
Right.
Step one. Once we take those exams, then we can determine, what the best path is.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and my other question is, for SAT and IB programs, did the students, if they take those tests, do they have to go out of the district to another district to take it?
Well, the IB is a completely different program.
Right,
They can't go take those tests. We just simply don't have that program here. I'm not even sure if there are very many schools around us that have that program.
okay.
The SAT subject test, they could probably just go take somewhere else. That's offered around the area.
We used to do it in the cafeteria.
Yes,
Okay. Why don't we offer it here?
it's the subject test. We do the regular general. This is more specific.
Okay,
Specific subject.
okay, thank you.
But we haven't ever made those.
Again, I don't even know what I took when I was here.
Probably the regular listing.
Seemed like we studied for a long year. That's okay. That's okay.
Any other questions for Act 158? I think it's a good thing. Now, I just want to show you with, just to give you an update on where we are with the Central Pennsylvania Friendship Consortium. Just to remind you, a few years ago, pre-COVID, we started a consortium. I say we, the area regional CTE director, education director, because there's a need for apprentices, an apprenticeship in the manufacturing program, which was where the big need was. So we actually had a meeting down in Williamsport. A group of us came out of the meeting talking about how the plan was probably not going to be successful, wasn't going to work. And in conversations with employers, we came up with a whole new idea. It really literally a grassroots effort. It developed into this Central Pennsylvania Apprenticeship Consortium. We received a $250,000 Pennsylvania SMART grant to put a manufacturing engineering program in place for pre-apprenticeships and apprenticeships. So in our manufacturing program, we have all of our students who are in pre-apprenticeship, and they can go right into the apprenticeship, and it's tied to a number of companies around the area. PMF is the leader right now. It's the industry that's Sam Shea, the gentleman that's involved in this. So that's the first one. It's called the CSD Ecosystem Grant. I just want to let you know that that has been continued. So that is continuing this year. Just want to keep you abreast of a couple of new ones that are coming down the pipe. Because the Department of Labor and Industry liked the grant and our model so much, we are kind of across the state presenting this thing and trying to get other apprenticeship models up and running. They are looking at giving the consortium an additional $85,000 through the Department of Community and Educational Development for promotional needs for manufacturing engineering. So we'll have a video crew come in and videotape our students and our program, and do a professional video and a number of other things to promote manufacturing program. The other one that we're looking at currently is a school to work grant that just came out. We're going to meet on this here shortly, I think this week actually, to talk about how we're going to be able to use this and continue to develop what we have, if we can expand it into something beyond manufacturing but related. So I just want to let you know that's out there. That is also a $250,000 grant. That's what is being discussed anyway, if we're able to get some. And that's through the Department of Labor and Industry. There is another one coming out. I just want to let you know that we are looking at this. It's very similar to the CNC Ecosystem Grant. It is a healthcare apprenticeship program because of the need that's on the horizon. We're looking at going through the CPAC again. I don't know what they're looking at as far as the grant funding for whatnot. Unfortunately, we may not be able to participate in the process. But I do want to let you know, if you see anything like that in the press, and you come back and say, why aren't we in this? We are. Okay. So I just want to let you know that's what's happening, so if you see anything, you understand where it's at. These are all great. They're all coming from the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry, as well as the Community and Economic Development Partnerships. It's been a great group, and we've done a lot of amazing things for students as well as our community. A lot of apprentices in this as well. Okay. Great partnership. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keem, for all your hard work.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I also have under my report this evening, the board and I did have a conversation about this in executive session, but I wanted to report out to the community. We've received requests from the Lycoming County Commissioners and the Bureau of Elections to use 3 school buildings starting in fall of 2023 as polling places. It will affect all 3 buildings in town in Jersey Shore, the high school, the middle school, and Jersey Shore Elementary. I have made it clear to the board and the commissioners that I do not intend to have school on those days. So I'm saying this publicly because I want the community to understand that this board and I don't have any control over that. There is clear language in the state code that says elections can be placed into public buildings, and we are public buildings. So we've been notified by the commissioners that that's going to occur starting in November of 2023. I intend to create a school calendar that uses a combination of professional development and flexible instructional remote learning days so that we don't have staff and students in the buildings on election days going forward. But I want the community to understand this is a situation we're in. This board and I don't have really any control other than we'll adjust our procedures to make sure that students aren't here, that staff isn't here. We'll make our buildings available. We understand the need for the civic process, but we also want to keep our students and our staff out of it and not be responsible for whatever is happening with elections. So I'm saying that out loud. The school calendar is going to look a little different this spring when I present it to the board, because there will be a day in November and a day in April in 23-24 where there will not be school on a Tuesday. So I just want to say that up front so that everybody is prepared for that's what it looks like when the calendar comes out.
Mr. Mueller, the day will be in May, not April.
The date they gave me for 2024 is in April. Yep, and we're not starting until November of 2023, so it will be April 2024 because it's a presidential election year. Nope, I understand what you're saying. I also have attached to tonight's agenda, simply for presentation. As I said at the last meeting, I'm starting to work through job descriptions. There are 3 more on this agenda. The first one, timely, is my secretary. You just recently accepted her retirement. So we worked through making sure if there were any updates that were needed to her job description, they're there and they will get approved prior to someone replacing her. So we took a look at also school building secretary, since they're somewhat similar. And we also looked at energy leader. That's something that I know that we have had questions about, and it was also pretty timely because they were just involved in our recent energy audit that happened at Jersey Shore Elementary and the high school for purposes of that energy refund, and that person really took the lead on informing staff and letting them know what they needed to do on that day as part of their job description. If you have any questions about those job descriptions, please let me know. Mr. Kinley, I know there was a question last meeting about one that we had on for approval. There was a typo in it. It's back on tonight with that typo addressed. Also have on the agenda under my presentation, policy 913. I want to thank Mr. Allen, Mrs. Dobler, and Mrs. Calhoun for working through policy 913. It's actually 913.1. It's on the agenda for the public as their finalized version, but I will draw the board's attention to the fact that last week I sent in my update the redlined version so that you all could see what the committee did with that policy. That essentially addressed our advertising on school grounds situation that we've talked about at the board level a couple of times. It also added in language about naming rights so that as a board you would have the authority, if you chose to accept it, naming rights to a district facility. I'll pause and take questions if anybody has on that policy. Or if anybody on the committee has anything they want to add. Again, this is not on tonight for a vote. This is solely for you to see, potentially discuss if you have any questions. I will say, I did send to the committee, and I'm gonna make a note to send, but I don't believe I sent it to all of you that have developed an AR to this policy already. That's a form that would be filled out by somebody wanting to make a donation and advertise, so that there's a clear standard process for how that works. So I did send it to the committee, but I realized as I said that out loud that I didn't send it to the whole board. So I'm gonna send it to you this week so that you have it. You don't have to approve that with the policy, but it will be helpful for you to see what a process would look like. Questions? And last, PSBA officer elections. I did put this on, thank you, Mr. Enders, for reminding me, because we had a conversation about last year making sure that we were prepared for this before we had to do it and take a vote at a board meeting. So I do want to point out that it's about time for us to do PSBA officer elections. Mr. Enders, do you want to explain what exactly the board is required to do?
So in my board update last week, I put a link to videos and information on the candidates there, and then I attached two documents. One was the actual ballot, and one was an FAQ, and I'll get to the FAQ in a second. If you look at the actual ballot that was attached, there's only one candidate for each position, or there's only one candidate for each position. There is one position that has two candidates listed, but you are to elect two people. So essentially, your options are to either vote for the individual listed or to abstain. And under the FAQ, I did review that and I attached that. If you read through the FAQ, it clearly says there that the board is allowed to abstain. This is directly from PSBA. There is a general rule that requires a vote to be cast for every office on a ballot. So as a practical matter, abstention is allowed, but of course not encouraged. That's what PSBA wrote. So as we go forward with this, I think the best approach would be if you would like to abstain from voting for one of those candidates, please email me and let me know that. And I will make sure Dr. Ulmer and I can work together at building the ballot for the board meeting when we actually vote on this. You do not need to email me if you're okay with the candidate that's chosen. If I don't receive an email from anyone, as no one wants to abstain, or wishes the board would abstain for someone, we will just put the names on a board agenda, probably at the next meeting to do that. If you could possibly email me by next Tuesday, the 4th, I would appreciate that. That way we can build the agenda and work together on that. Does that all make sense? I see a couple head nods. Does that all make sense to everyone? So you only need to email me if you would like to abstain.
So I totally understood everything you said, but I also in that blurb, it had said about there being electronic voting.
Yes, I, as the board secretary, cast the vote.
You have
I
to
have
cast
the
the vote.
username and the password.
Okay,
What will happen is we put it on an agenda as this is our ballot. You approve that. And I think actually the agenda item says for the board secretary to cast the following ballot on
Okay.
behalf of the board. So then the next day after you vote, I go on and log in and cast the vote.
that sounds easy.
Any other questions about that? One more thing, and it's not on the agenda, but especially since Mr. Wall is here, I want to point out, I didn't point out yet the sign behind us. And I want to thank our maintenance department for their work on the sign. All it was my idea, but they pulled it off. And I think it looks really good.
Yes,
Thank you, that's my report.
all right. Thank you. Okay, next, we're going to have courtesy of the floor for public comment on items that are specifically on the agenda. I have two names that signed up. The first one is Mr. Shireman. I noticed, though, that you have on here student safety.
I would like to also comment about the CTE program.
Oh, from the presentation that was given? Yes, that's not a problem. You will have 3 minutes. Just state your name and address, please, for the record.
Sherman, 229 Pleasant Avenue, Jersey Shore. I'm glad to hear the percentage of 40% of seniors in that CTE program. That's what this nation was built on, previous hard work. And the other one I'll be very brief on. There's a wooded section between my house and the middle school. There's, I imagine, some study programs, whatever, they have to have kids outside over in that woods for collecting stuff. But anyways, I want to know if there's a written policy, safety policy for this, because that land over there is small land, pigs, and mosquitoes and everything else. I had saw students, and this is directed for board's information, directed to the superintendent. There were students going back into one clearing in the woods, shorts, short sleeve shirts and blouses and that. And I did say something to an instructor about hoping to check these, students for ticks. What ticks can cause Lyme disease and a lot of other things. And if a tick is not caught, it can cause temporary paralysis in students. I lost a friend, almost lost a friend because he did not find a tick, but the tick was on, almost killed him. I know 2 other people who have been lost and they suffering from the effects of the stuff. I want to know if there is a direct list of rules what students should wear now, because I look at it from a couple of standpoints, student safety. But if something happens, such as what happened with Little League, you do not require these kids to wear proper clothing and that, and something happens, guess who's going to get sued? That's the way it is in life today. I am not here to fault on, I've seen this couple of years, I've seen more than anybody else does. You can't leave these kids, you have football players that have the proper clothing when they play, you don't play without helmets, pads, letting these kids go into that section of woods, it's a small thing, but they're not dressed properly. The state's telling me, everybody else is picking out this pretty high around here, and also with mosquitoes, that is total swamping. And something has to be done for the safety of these students, and let the parents know that they are required to have certain requirements. Are there certain requirements, Mr. Aller, that you don't know?
My understanding and my conversation with the building principal is that that is part of the lesson that they do to understand the dangers of ticks and Lyme disease during that unit.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's still not addressing the problem, letting them people play, those kids out there, you're putting them in danger, not putting them in respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shireman.
I didn't have a chance to sign up, I didn't know you were tabling item 8 under miscellaneous, but I'd like to address that if I could.
Want me to go first?
Okay. Well, you're more than welcome to comment on this, at the second public comment.
I'll be denied the opportunity then?
You know what, poor Star, I'm gonna go, because he put my name down, it's Shelley Hyatt Township, I have a few questions.
Well, you did sign up for finances, but tonight,
I didn't sign myself up, my husband did, but that was all right, because I was getting signed up anyway, because I have some questions.
as long as it's
Under personnel-
attaining to the
under
agenda, please.
personnel, I see some names here, I'd like to know who sits on these interview committees. and who chooses who gets interviewed, because I see some names that kind of zing out at me again. Because this has been going on here for the last year. I see, let's go down to O, and we're gonna go to J. Just these names. I mean, I don't know if we're doing the family plan again. Because we already have people sitting up here that have families in this school district that actually work here. They sit on this board. It's called a conflict of interest. Okay, so let's take a look at some names here. Don't want to give any. We'll go to K, we'll go to O. So I know somebody works for those people. So who sits on the interview committee? Who chooses who gets interviewed?
I can send you our interview procedure. It's
I
pretty
like,
quick.
well, I sat on here, I know, because I changed it when I sat on this board. Somebody tried some funny stuff. And I made sure that somebody, more than one, from the board sat there and paid attention to what was going on. Now, I'm gonna skip on to me. Let's just have it on out. What's the problem? What questions do you need to know? Is there a reason why you can't have to bring anybody? Let's go. What's the issue? Is it with Chris? Is it with you, Kenyon?
No, actually, Mrs. Holm, it's not with any of us. We, what I stated tonight was that we
I
think it's
didn't
an,
hear what you said.
okay,
Because I actually answered the questions that came via our superintendent. He did all of it.
I
He
did,
all of it, because nobody, when we send you people emails, nobody responds. Not one person.
well,
Imagine that.
I'm trying to respond to you now.
Well,
So,
let's go.
okay. Like I had stated in the beginning, we think it's an excellent idea, but not all of the information and logistics of actually maintaining it, putting it up, and
And
utilizing it.
All the information.
I did see that email, and so did the rest of the board members, did see the email that Dr. Ulmer had written back to you. But those questions that he posed to you were not all answered yet, to my
Could you
knowledge.
tell me which one is an answer? Because, you know, you put it as an attachment, so now everybody has my personal phone number, my personal, where I live, everything. I pulled it up there, I'm like, well, this is wonderful.
Well, we're not denying your gift by any means. We just need
What?
to take
Can
some
you
time.
Please tell me what they are, right now. Who's got the questions? Who has the answer? What do you want? What do you want? Because I need to go to where I need to go get some free gifts, as in, stone, as in the corner blocks, because you don't pour a pack. You don't pour a pack. You dig and you put stone in there.
Which is why I think that it would be best if we could talk to you directly to understand exactly what your vision is.
Okay, what do you
So
want to
this
have?
this 3-minute period is up.
Yeah, I already know that. I know. I sat where you sat and I gave grace. So anyways, so when are we gonna have this meeting?
Well, I'm not going to actually give you any more grace at this moment. So I'm going to ask you to take your seat, and we're moving on with the meeting.
And let me know when we're gonna have this meeting. Is it gonna be you?
I can. I
Okay,
can set it up.
you. All right, Brian. So give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Helm. Hmm.
I didn't sign up, but that's okay.
Actually, that's not okay.
There's a question about the job description.
Peter, you okay with that?
Plan director, what is the status of
Do I?
that job description?
Okay.
Go ahead, Mom.
Really?
Go ahead.
Wait,
Wait,
I didn't sign up either, you didn't let me.
I realize that. I will give you the same opportunity, Mr. Helm. What I don't appreciate, actually, Mr. Schweitzer, what I don't appreciate is that if you're going to take the podium, you need to follow the rules that we have set forth, which you know very well. You need to sign up if you'd like to speak during this comment period. I would love to be able to hear what you have to say, but you need to sign up. So please make sure you do so the next meeting if you want to make comments during what is on the agenda, okay? We will allow you to speak. You have 3 minutes, please. Go ahead.
Something I'd like to know what the status of the job description is for the physical plant director. It must be rewritten. It's been on, there's been one Julie on it.
It-
They made comment.
I believe we-
The president of the board, and I didn't hear anything back. Is the job description still on the board?
I believe we approved it at the last meeting. Am I correct? I believe so. We approved it at the last meeting.
Approved at the last meeting.
Correct. Yes.
Well, that means.
Yes.
I want to sit down a minute. I was just curious about my comments that I had made. I had made 4 or 5 suggestions.
Were they,
And whether they.
did you make those at a meeting? Because you did. I wasn't present for that.
I sent an email to the president of the school.
Okay. Well, I'm not her and I don't have access to her email.
She would share it with somebody. But anyway, okay, so it's over.
We approved it at the last meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Schweitzer. Mr. Helm, if you would like to take the podium, I'll give you the opportunity.
I appreciate that opportunity. I will wait till the end. My wife did stand up in the job.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to personnel. Looking to approve items A through Q. May I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those not in favor, nay. Motion passes. There is nothing under curriculum and instruction, nor under building and grounds, or under finance. Moving on to I, miscellaneous. Looking to approve items A through G and letters I and J. May I have a motion? Okay, as well? I thought we tabled.
H is what you tabled, right?
Yeah. I apologize. H is what we tabled. Oh, wait. Where is K? I don't have it on my agenda.
They was on there. I just printed mine out
Oh.
this morning.
Oh,
Sometimes they change it.
Got it.
You must have printed this before
okay.
Friday.
I apologize.
Good. The
All right.
public agenda included a student placement agreement.
Okay. Of the backpacks. Got it. Sorry about that. Okay. Looking to approve items A through G and letters I, J, and K. May I have a motion, please?
Motion. I'll second.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those not in favor, nay. Motion passes.
Can I ask what K is exactly? I know we already proved it, but I just wanted an
The
explanation.
backpack donation.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great.
That is actually, the Kids in Need Foundation is actually a division of Toyota. So this is something they do across the country. And it came to our elementary principals as their desire to make this donation. They actually they are already here, but we'll be passing those out to students now that the board has approved them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, there is nothing under old business.
I would like to bring something up.
Go right ahead.
Even though. But old business, but
I don't have that under mine either. Go right ahead.
I would like to, Dr. Elmer, to address, because I've been hearing a lot, like in the news, and actually even within the school district too, about the food shortages that's across the country. So I just wondered if we do have a food shortage here in Jersey Shore and what the plan of action is?
So thank you for bringing that up because it was good for us to check in with nutrition. And I'm going to refer to Mr. Enders because I know you had the conversation with them.
To answer your question with a yes or no, the answer is a yes. They're getting food. The biggest problem is they're not always getting what they ordered. So they get a listing of what's not available. So then they have to, and they get a listing of what replacements they have, and everything is replaceable. I looked at the listing. I would say probably out of 20 to 25 items, maybe 6 of them had replacements available. At that point in time, then they have to change the menus around to change
So
it.
do they just send replacements, or you can order something off of that replacement list?
They have a replacement for a particular item,
And they
so,
just send that replacement?
well, they do let us know, and we have to agree
Okay.
to select that. The other thing is that, we have delays in our orders. I talked to the food service, our USDA order, that was effective on 9/7, never showed up until 9/22. So that's another thing that right now is what they're going through. But the good news is, food service staff is making do with what they have. They have yet to run out of food, and all the kids have gotten the nutrition components that they're required by law to get. So they are making do with what they have, I guess, so to speak. But it's not running as well as it should, or what it did pre-pandemic.
I would say the biggest impact you're probably going to hear from kids and parents is the menu changing because
Right, because
they're-
I know parents look up
Yeah.
the menu to see if they want to pack that
yeah,
day.
they're
because-
having to change the menu sometimes at the last minute to feed food they actually have here. And, I think she even said to us one day, I might order something thinking I'm going to have it on Wednesday, but then I have to have that on Tuesday because I have it here, but I don't have here what I need for today. And so they're making adjustments regularly.
They're also sharing quite heavily between each other. So, middle school might have something that JSC needs, they'll run it to middle school. Salisbury might have something that JSC needs, they'll run it to JSC. JSC might have something Avis needs, they'll run it out to Avis.
Okay, thanks.
I just want to follow that by saying thank you to Nutrition Inc. and all of the people that work in the cafeterias because
They're really
that's
doing
a
a great
lot.
job.
Yeah, that's a lot of work, and my kids haven't complained. So we just need to be thankful for what we have.
I think it was probably a year ago or somewhere around that time frame where I remember Mr. Ender saying, I'm afraid that someday I'm going to have to tell the board we can't have school because we can't serve lunch. We haven't ever been there, which I'm thankful for, but it's a daily juggling act.
And is there any, did the breakfast start yet?
October 1st.
So that's in place to what we're gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Saturday, though, isn't it? So
It is, yeah. It officially starts on October 1st, even though that's a Saturday.
Yeah.
We didn't pick the date.
wait a minute. All right.
Thank you, Mrs. Petrosky.
Next is our second courtesy of the floor. Anyone wishing to address the board on items that you would like to discuss, please feel free to come to the podium, state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes, please.
Bob Fryman from Township. Good evening, board. I'd like to know what this board considers a communication. It's in your agenda, communication.
Okay.
Communication to you. Maybe your solicitor could answer that. Communication.
Bob, you know, I don't set the agenda generally.
What is communication?
My understanding is for,
Communication.
are you gonna let me finish, Mr. Pryor?
My time is up now.
My understanding, since I don't fit the agenda, generally communications are anything from the superintendent. Usually it's accommodations, recommendations, things they're getting from outside entities that they deal with on a regular basis, and they're passing that information along to the community.
Okay, thank you.
If there's something different, I'll let Dr. Ulmer.
No, it's usually just things that are informational from my end.
Okay, what if a taxpayer writes an email to the entire board? A few meetings ago, I sent an email to every one of you concerning the $3.10 adult lunch, okay? You're gonna raise it 5 whole cents. I asked you, where can I go to get a meal for $3.15 as a taxpayer? Basically, we're subsidizing meals. And I asked you to consider raising the costs somewhat appropriately enough to match what the average person has to spend outside the school district. I don't even know if it was discussed by this board. And you think you'd at least discuss it before you approved everything. I never even got an answer. I've done that before, well, a few years ago, never got an answer. Why doesn't that happen? I consider that a communication. And I think it was a reasonable request to question it. Where can you tell me where I can go get a meal for $3.15? Because you can tell me where I can go get a decent meal for $3.15, I'm gonna go there. Why are we subsidizing adult meals in the school district? The taxpayers would have to pay for that. But I think at least the president of the board should at least respond. I know when I was president of the board, I got questions. I either emailed them back with an answer or I called them on the phone. I don't see that being done here. And that's nothing directed towards you, Madam VP, mainly the president, this isn't here, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor.
Steve Howell, Hyatt Township, I live at 227 West Campbell Lane. So, just to build on just what my wife was asking, the donation of the greenhouse, if somebody can kind of steer me where we need to do a little bit of research to provide answers, and I guess that phone call or email will come from Dr. Wallen, that's fine, that's sufficient, until today we didn't have additional questions.
God, don't email me. Just call me.
You know, certainly, we're willing to do the legwork, but we actually have to know what the questions are. You know, I mean, we came here completely surprised that it was tabled and without any forewarning at all, and without anybody reaching out and asking questions. And that's to build a little bit on Bob's point, you know, communication is where we win. And each one of you were elected to be able to communicate back to your constituents, what's going on with the school district, what's going on with the board, and if they have questions, you know, to provide those answers. And if you don't have the answers, then you can seek those answers out to the paid administrators of the district. It doesn't really seem as though that really happens very often. I hear many people saying, oh, we've asked and we've asked and we've never gotten answers. You know, it's your job to provide that information out to the public. Not just here at the meetings where, you know, very sparsely attended, and, frustratingly so. And those of us who do speak up and speak out, oftentimes, you may look at me and say, well, here's this guy again. Yeah, I'm gonna be here. I'm not going away, I'm a taxpayer. I'm a resident. I'm a state. I am somebody who cares and pays attention. And my wife does as well. And I think that that's everybody's right, and I think more people should do it. And we should care more about what does go on in our community. So that's why I'm here, and I'm not going away, and, I'm not having plans to go away. So I'll challenge you to communicate back to your constituents and answer their questions. If somebody sends you an email, at least acknowledge, hey, I've received your email, let me get your answer. It takes time, it takes your time, it's your personal time, I get that. But, it's also our personal time, and the questions are being asked in regard to seeking out the answers. So, that's all I have. I also understand, though, did the state not approve that everybody gets a free breakfast? And Jersey Shore is participating in
Yep, starting October 1st.
Thank you.
Shelley Home, Fire Township. One. Communication thing, I think that was brought up by everybody here tonight. Everybody. I don't know, when I sat as president of the board, I spent 8 hours a day just flagging things, seriously. Because that's what I did. If I didn't have the answer, I went right to the top. I didn't go to any principal, I didn't go to any building administrator, I went right to the source. And we had issues with our source. Do you remember that, Chris? Yeah, pretty much not here. So our board was doing a lot of everything. There was something I wanted to say. I'm glad to see the CTE apprentice program. It's not really grassroots. It's kind of reinventing the wheel, putting the train back on the track. That stuff used to happen when our grandparents were, in school. I also have something for each and every one of you. Are you gonna help me, Steve? Hold on a minute.
Yes.
Okay. And here we go, because y'all get prizes tonight. And this is for you,
Thank you.
the oldest living fossil in the world. By the way, it is the ginkgo.
Ginkgo.
And let me see, because I picked everything out for everybody. No, you don't know where they're going. Right here, this is the milkweed. Right here, do you see the seed? I have the seed pods. Now, without this, the monarch wouldn't survive. Without the monarch, that one. They rely on each other.
Thank you.
You, the sunflower. Okay. Jeff, you already know what you're getting. Food. These are the kind of things that would go in the greenhouse. Food. Right there, oldest living fossil. Right there, symbiotic. Relationships, food. Right here. You want to pull that out, show them? Because here's another one. Oh, that's for you. Take it home, plant it. That's food. Who doesn't really have a green thumb? I know you do. Who doesn't really have one? Isn't at home a lot? Likes to ignore stuff. Mary's not here. I was going to get back to her. I was. This right here is for you. That's a bonsai. Now you're going to have to take care of that. This is an air plant. There's no soil in it at all. But you have to spray a little bit. It's an orchid. Okay? You didn't get a bottle.
I have a whole bunch.
There you go. That's food. water, see what you get. Who'd I miss? Who'd I miss? Okay, now hold on. Watch out, yeah, because this one will leave stuff and you won't know about it. That right there, take pictures of it, tell me what it looks like. That's good stuff. This is for Mary, so just.
We'll just leave it here, yep.
Yep. Did I get everybody?
Mr. Allen?
Did I get everybody?
Mr. Allen?
You, I should just wait until this week, let me get you. Right there. See that? Just you lay it, take it home, lay it on a piece of paper. See, this is the same thing. You get both.
Yours look like
All right,
they're in
okay.
eggs.
Okay. There you go.
Thank
They're the kind of things that would go on in the greenhouse. No.
Love it, it's special.
Thank you, Mrs. Home.
Thank you.
Merle Schweitzer, Mifflin Township. I'd like a brief update on the status of the HVAC project, please.
Going very well, almost finished. We have every intention of firing boilers next week as a test. And I'm trying to think, the last update I got, the boilers are all, we have one more crane job that has to take place this Wednesday after school, and that's breaching of the high school boiler. I was thinking middle school, but it's high school.
So when will you be back to normal operationally? You figure with the
Next week.
boilers and univents, et cetera?
Well, everything but the boilers is operational. They will be test fired next week.
The boilers will be tested next week. Does this testing include an inspection from labor and industry?
They'll be here the same time.
Mr. Wall says yes.
So the labor and industry will inspect the boilers.
October 5th is scheduled to be here.
Okay. Well, it sounds
That would be the last of the equipment startup would be October 5th.
sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Schweitzer. Anyone else? Okay, this time we're going to close courtesy of the floor. We will be having an executive session after the meeting for legal and safety issues. May I have a motion to adjourn, please? And there will not be any business conducted after our executive session.
Motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.